Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to our channel, and how are you doing? So in this video we're going to be looking at the topic units and dimensions. Now it's a very important topic because it basically holds the fundamentals and the basics of physics. So I'm going to give you an example. Consider yourself that you are given a task to build a huge skyscraper. Now you're gonna put all of your efforts into designing the base of it. You're gonna make sure that the base is sturdy and strong to make sure that the skyscraper does not fall. Similarly, in physics, we need to make sure that the base is very strong so that when we understand the topics further, we don't face difficulties in that, and it's easier to solve problems further on. So that is why this chapter holds importance, and we're going to divide this chapter into small components and study it accordingly. So let's go. Okay, so let's start a discussion on physical quantities. So let me show you something. I have a magical bag, okay? Whatever the camera guy standing at the back of the camera speaks, that thing comes out of this bag. You want to see it? All right, let's start. Camera guy, say something.
A tape.
Tape, 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 tape. All right. Next up.
A water bottle.
All right, my friend. All right. All right. Hold on. Now, these things you might be thinking, hey, you might be carrying these things along with you, but now speak something which you don't think that he might be carrying along.
What about an AC remote?
AC remote. so I also have an AC remote with me. Now let me show you what we can do with this. As I pulled out this AC remote out of this magical bag, I'm a lonely person, okay? Just believe me, I am. I was kind of wondering how much is the length of this thing. That's how lonely I am. So I again go to my magical bag, and I would need some instrument to measure the length of this remote, right? So I'm gonna say a measuring length, a measuring tape. So, ta-da, okay? Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure it in centimeters. So I'm gonna stick it to the top, and the reading is coming out to be 19.5 centimeters roughly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to my board, which is right over there, and write this reading down. Let me write down, I just measured the length of the remote. How did I measure it? Using this instrument called a measuring tape. Measuring tape. And the reading came out to be 19.5 centimeters. As far as my memory recalls, 19.5 centimeters. All right, that's cool. That's a good reading. Let's go further. Okay, so now I take my loneliness a step further. So again, as you can see, I was sitting alone and kind of looking at this remote, and then a random thought came to my mind. Hey, what's the weight of this thing? So I was like, okay, I need to find that out. I just need to find that out. That's the entire purpose of my life. I need to find out the weight of this sucker. So what I do is I grab my magical bag and I think, hey, what's the instrument that is used to measure the weight of a thing? A weighing scale. So a weighing scale, and here we go. A perfect weighing scale arrived out. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna keep it here and I'm gonna turn it on. So as you can see that the light is turned on, and I'm going to simply place this remote onto this weighing scale. So as you can show them that it's showing 128 grams. So we've got the reading as well. So what did I just measure? I just measured the weight of this thing. I used an instrument called the weighing scale, and the reading came out to be 126 grams. I'm just writing G for grams. All right, now I've written these two, and now I was kind of thinking, hey, I'm getting very lonely, man. So I kind of thought, you know what, to beat my boredom and to beat my loneliness, I'm gonna go play basketball with my friends. So I don't know what time is it yet, but I have to go there at about 30 minutes of time. So I'm gonna see what time it is. So to see the time, what do we usually look at? It's a clock. So I'm gonna take a clock out of my magical bag. So this is a clock, and It's 3:05 right now, 3:05 p.m. And just in 30 minutes, I have to go play basketball. Basically, this long needle is the one which is used to measure the minutes. And if it comes from 1 to 7, if it goes from 1 to 7, that would be 30 minutes. So what did we just find out? We just found out that we are measuring time using a clock. And let's say that an example, 30 minutes. I have to go to play basketball in 30 minutes. All right. Okay, so now I'm going to show you something that you've never seen in your life. I'm kidding, you must have, but I mean, you just haven't experienced it yet. So I'm kidding, you must have experienced it yet, but you haven't experienced it on an education channel, okay? Give me some credit for that. So I'm going to show you a device which is called a speedometer, and that is used to measure the speed of a moving vehicle. In this case, this is an Activa, all right? And I'm gonna show you how this works. So, hop on, Mr. Cameraman. Let's go for an adventure, okay? So this thing right here, which is the speedometer, the units are kilometers per hour, and these are the numerical values, that is 0, 20, 40. So let's see how far we can go. You can see that the needle is moving and the cameraman is shaking, but we are going, baby. So as you can see that the needle is moving, it's 20, it's 10, let me increase it more, 40. So this is how the speed is increasing, and now let me slow it down. Okay, so this is an instrument which is used to measure speed, and let me go back to the whiteboard now. Okay, so as you just saw our adventure, we just measured the speed, okay? And what instrument did we use? We used a speedometer. And let's write a value of 40 kilometers per hour. Perfect. Okay, so just as you saw, we listed 4 different quantities right now. That is length, weight, time, and speed. So basically, what we understood right now, doing all these crazy experiments, was that any quantity in this world which can be measured using a physical instrument, in this case like a measuring tape, like a weighing scale, clock, a speedometer, any of those quantities which can be measured using a physical instrument is termed as a physical quantity. Therefore, all of these are physical quantities because we have some or the other way of measuring them. So all these terms, my friends, are called physical quantities. All right, and now you ask me how many physical quantities there are in this world. Infinite. You cannot even elaborate on the number of quantities. I mean, you've got a quantity for everything these days, and there are infinite number of quantities in this world, and let's discuss it furthermore. Okay, so now there's a small thing that I wanted to tell you. In fact, I'm gonna make a big video about it, just like the one you're seeing, and right now I'm just gonna give you an overview of what that thing is. So you see these values that I wrote down? There's a way to represent a physical quantity, and that is by using a numerical value and a term which is attached to the numerical value, which is termed or coined as a unit. So all of these things over here, these are the numerical values, and these things which are attached to the numerical value, these things are called units. I'm going to make a complete video on this topic, but for now, just know that physical quantities can be represented by a numerical value and attached with the numerical value, a unit. Okay, so now I'm going to explain you the different types of physical quantities there are. Okay, it's simple. There is 2 different types of physical quantity. Let's see how we came up to that conclusion. So what happened was, a long time back, a group of scientists happened to come together, okay? They called in scientists from all around the world, and they conducted a small meeting. So one scientist, this person in particular, this is the culprit, okay? This person raised his hand and he said, hey, you know what? We're getting bored. Let's write all the physical quantities there are in this world. Now listen, if I were there, I would have punched him in his face and knocked him out. But unfortunately, I wasn't. So, and you know, scientists being scientists, they agreed to it. everybody was like, hooray, hippie, hooray. And they agreed to it, and they sat together and they wrote all the physical quantities there are in this world on a piece of paper. So, so this is the page that they wrote all the physical quantities there are. So they wrote, I don't know how many, approximately this many physical quantities on this piece of paper. You know, this is a very big number, and it is because there are infinite physical quantities. They wrote as much as possible and they filled up this page. Now what happened was, again, this person in particular, he raised his hand again and he said that, all right, now we're going to break these quantities down into simpler parts. What I mean by that is break it down into small components. If I would have been there, I would have punched him in his face. But again, I wasn't, so everybody hooted and shouted and praised for him. So what it means is that if velocity could be broken down into components like distance over time. Acceleration could be broken down into components like distance over time squared. Then force could be broken down into mass and acceleration. So mass, I can simply write mass, and acceleration, I can write distance divided by time squared. So this is how they converted all these quantities there were on this page into smaller and smaller formulas. And what they found out was in every single formula that they broken down into smaller components, 7 such quantities were there which were repeating in every single formula. Those 7 quantities were, ta-da! Now these are the 7 quantities that I was talking about, and these are called fundamental quantities. Why? Because these are the terms through which all the other terms are created. Without these, life is impossible if we're talking about physical quantities, okay? So no physical quantity can be created without the help of these 7 terms, okay? That is why these are called fundamental quantities. So let me explain each and every one of them in a small manner. So this is, first of all, we've got mass. Mass basically gives you how heavy or light you are, or how heavy or light an object is. Then we've got length. It gives you a feeling of how long or how short an object is. Time is, you know, time, 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. You're well aware of what time is, okay? Then temperature, it's basically the degree of hotness or coldness of an object. It tells you if an object is hot or cold. Then we have current. It is basically, in simplest of the simplest terms, called the flow of electrons. If you don't know that, don't worry. We are going to cover it in the upcoming videos. But for now, just know current is the flow of electrons. And amount of substance. Now, amount of substance, it's basically a term called mole. Now, what a mole is, it's a big number. It's 6.022 times 10 to the power 23. This is called an Avogadro's number, and this is used to represent very large quantities, and we use such large quantities at atomic scales, okay? So that is where this is going to be useful. And don't worry, we're not going to go into the depth of these things. We're just going to overview them just a little bit, okay? And then we've got luminous intensity. Now, in order to explain luminous intensity, come here. Come here. So you see, this is the sun, okay? The sun is shining its light on me, all right? So on my face, it's very bright. But at the back of me, there's not much light, okay? So luminous intensity is the measure of how intense the light is at a particular spot. For example, I can say that on my face, the luminous intensity is high, whereas at the back of my head, the luminous intensity is low. All right, back to the board. So as you saw that I just wrote down the 7 fundamental quantities there are in this world. Now you subtract these 7 from all the quantities in this world and you're gonna get derived quantities, okay? So these are all fundamental quantities, and these are 7 in number. Then we have all the quantities in the world which are like infinite in number. So if you subtract fundamental quantity from this innumerous amount of physical quantities, you are going to get derived quantities. Now derived quantities could be anything other than these 7 things. For example, velocity, density, acceleration, force, anything you can think of that is going to come in derived quantity. So if somebody comes up to you and asks this question, hey bro, can you tell me if so and so quantity is a fundamental quantity or a derived quantity? Simply see if what the person said has the quantity over here. If it is here, then that's a fundamental quantity. If it's not there, it's a derived quantity. Okay, so to sum it all up, so first we understood what physical quantities are, and okay, so write it down in the description for what you learned what physical quantities are. And then we divided it into two different categories, which were fundamental quantities and derived quantities. We understood what they were, and I hope you liked this video. If you did, do consider subscribing to this channel and giving it a thumbs up. And also, don't forget to complete the assignment that is there in the description box below. Till there, take care, bye.